All right, thank you. Ooh, a little loud, sorry. First of all, I want to thank Pete and Amy for allowing me to speak here today, and of course Megan for making this all happen too. This is a great event. I've been wanting to come down here for years and finally made it, and made it a dual purpose as we are enjoying the girls' state hockey tournament next door as well, which my older daughters are at because they both played high school hockey this year. They were one game away from that, so it's fun to always watch. So in case anyone's wondering, Warroad is leading 3-2 in the third period over Academy of Holy Angels. So, I'll talk a little bit more about this slide towards the end, and we'll tie this all in together here. But I just wanted to mention my contact information, and I will share it again at the end, and talk a little bit more about that at the end. So my journey started October 23rd of 2019 when I collapsed at a restaurant that my wife and I owned, and they ended up rushing me to the hospital, got me in a helicopter over to Duluth, and 11 and a half hours later, I had a mechanical valve and a aortic sleeve, as well as a bypass. And everything that happened in 2020 was a direct result of what happened in 2019. Everything was complications from there on out. And, you know, for those of us that are survivors can probably relate to that. You heard Leslie talk a little bit about that. There's a lot of complications that have happened with me since. So the bypass failed. They didn't realize that it failed. They actually thought I was leaking, so they were just going to go in there and throw a stitch in there, as my surgeon would say, Dr. Heck. Leslie talked about doctor speech. That's not the way he is. Up at Essentia in Duluth, he really spoke to me that in terms that made me understand, which was great. But once they got in there, they realized that actually my bypass had failed. My old artery started working again, and my bypassed artery spit clots into the periocardial sac. So had I waited even probably a couple more days, I wouldn't be here once again. And then a couple weeks later, I got what's called compartment syndrome, and you'll see a picture of that here in a couple of slides, where my artery in my arm actually split open and started bleeding in my arm, and I actually almost lost my arm, which was pretty crazy. And that was a direct result of the surgery as well. I was on tons and tons of Lovenox, so my blood was thin, my artery was thin, and it just ripped open. So pretty crazy. Everything was stable, everything was good, and then in April of 2023, I started to feel sick. I got a fever, I had chills at night, I thought I had the flu. And I actually went to the doctor, and they agreed with me, and I didn't go see my regular doctor, and I didn't go see my cardiologist, and they sent me home. And a week later, I was in the ER. And then once again, my cardiologist, who is her percentages are going up for the times that she doesn't send me to Duluth in an ambulance, but it's about 50% right now. So they sent me to Duluth, and they realized that they couldn't handle me anymore in Duluth. So that's when I got down to Abbott, and they had to do what's called a redo. So my aortic valve, my mechanical valve, and my sleeve for my aorta had to come out. And they had to replace it, and they actually replaced it with cadaver parts. The most complicating thing about that surgery was the 11 plus hours that it took to actually get all what they called the stickiness in my chest out. The surgery was over 20 hours. I was left open for 4 days afterwards, and they kept having to go back in. Finally, they buttoned me up. I don't use doctor terms either, by the way. They cracked my chest open, they buttoned me up. So they buttoned me up and woke me up on Sunday morning. And for a later speech, I'll tell you more about my ICU delirium that I had. and the vivid dreams that I had leading into that. It was very concerning for me, and it still concerns me to this day, and I would like to advocate more for that. Come to find out that they actually have people that sit with people in the ICU now. Megan told me that, and my sister actually has a friend that runs the 5th floor at Abbott, and I told her about my experiences in the ICU, and so they actually have volunteers that go in with people, and I'm hoping that it was a result of what I experienced. This is after my first surgery. You can see I'm quite a bit hooked up here. There was a lot of machines running me, a lot of people that cared about me. The first thing that I remember coming out of this was the Vikings were playing. It was a Thursday night, and the nurse actually had the game up to my ear, and I could feel the tube in my throat. And she just said, just about another hour, and it was just getting into the second half. So I knew that once the game was over, I was going to get that tube out, which was great. So this is the compartment syndrome that I experienced in my arm. I couldn't move my arm for about 5 weeks, and it looked like that for quite a bit of the time. After my follow-up to my second open heart surgery, they were more concerned about my arm than they were about my heart, which was pretty crazy. And the picture that is the other one is, I'm looking a little annoyed. That was my first bit of cardiac rehab. My dad was there as well, and he had actually had 4 heart attacks and spent time on that floor. And because of him being in Vietnam and Agent Orange, he also had many complications other than just heart issues, and so he used a walker. And he literally zoomed, made a noise around me with his walker so he could get a picture of his son using his walker. And there's a picture of me and him together using our walkers at the arena, of course. There's a couple of questions that I keep going back to, thinking about what I was going to talk about today. One of them is, why am I here? Not only in the physical sense, but also, why am I here speaking? I'm here speaking because I can. I know there's a lot of people that don't like to share their story. I like it. I feel like it helps me. I feel like it might help other people. So that's why I like to be here. Also, obviously, my family. They're a huge help. And for those of you that are family of survivors, don't discredit the experience that you have either. We had the easy part. We just had to lay there and not die. You're the ones that had to go through the pain, through the suffering, through the talks with the doctor, all that stuff. Plus, get yourself an advocate. Not only when doctors speak doctor talk, a lot of times you don't understand it, especially in the state that you're in. Make sure you have an advocate. My wife has been my biggest advocate for me, and it's fantastic. And then you talk about, why did I survive? If you hear about survival remorse, there's people that they will question why. Why am I still here? I had a good friend of mine that told me once, after I told him about my first experience with open heart surgery, he told me that, wow, you're going to do great things someday. And I don't know that I've done great things yet, and it doesn't have to be in the form of, going out and saving the world. It can be simple things. Like the fact that I get to experience all this. Yes, that is my daughter playing football. Not only do I have fantastic children, just they're good kids, but they're also great athletes. My daughter Laura made the state hockey tournament a few years ago as a 12UA hockey player. My daughter Riley here, she is the first female to be elected by the Coaches Association as academic all-state for football. I was a football coach for many years, so this was my influence, of course. And I was going to be there on Friday night anyways, whether it was coaching, whether it was broadcasting, or whether it was being in the stands. I was going to be there anyway, so I convinced her to play, and she did it. So, pretty great things. Better make sure I keep on time. All right, so in closing, once again, this is my contact information. Please take it down. I'm an open book. I'm not going to say I'm going to give medical advice because I'm not a doctor, but there's a lot of things that I've experienced, and there might be a lot of things that you've experienced that I would benefit from as well as you benefit from me. So please email me, text me, call me, whatever you want. I know Pete mentioned in his video, call me. I mean, that's what I'm here for. I love talking about it. It's healing. I know when I got home from my third open heart surgery, knowing what I had ahead of me was tough because I knew what I had to experience. My first one, I didn't know. I just rolled with the punches. But when I got home for my third one, I was pretty defeated because I knew that I had a long road ahead. And I'm not even a year out yet. So I'm still continuing to heal, still continuing to push on, and the chapter might be over, but my book is not done. So there'll be more chapters to be written. So thank you very much, guys.